Hey everybody, I'm Curtis.
And I'm Hannah.
And this is Love at First Fright. It's that time of year again.
What time might that be?
Where they start showing the new season of Next Level Chef on Hulu.
Yeah.
Because we don't have cable.
Yeah. So it comes out a day behind.
Yeah, well, it's like more than a day behind.
It's
like, by the time we get to it, it's like 2 days old.
2 to 5 days behind.
Yeah. One of my go-to cooking shows.
Yeah, it's
one of the newer go-to cooking shows. Like, Chopped is always a good standby.
Yeah.
And I watch a lot of reruns of Cutthroat Kitchen.
Yeah. And, I've been watching some reruns of MasterChef Junior. Because I think it's fun.
It is fun.
The kids are, they sure are trying.
I'm consistently amazed whenever I watch it that, like, there's an 8-year-old who's just, like, fully doing...
Yeah.
Like, a dinner service.
Yeah, you'll have an 8-year-old come on there that's just like, okay, and for your first course, I've made for you a beef Wellington. And it's like, okay, fucking eat chicken nuggets like everybody else.
Yeah, they're saying that, and I'm watching it eating pizza rolls.
Yeah. Judging.
And I'm like, it's probably raw.
Yeah, probably not going to be cooked enough. They didn't cook that enough. They totally beefed the beef.
And it's always way better than anything I could make.
Yeah, so. They're so talented. And it's really funny, too, to see children be so, like... And I say this as someone who was also kind of this as a kid, of the kind of kid that, like, read too much. And so everyone was always like, oh, she has such a good vocabulary. But now that I'm an adult, I can fully appreciate that. Because when I see a kid have the most old man-ass tastes, like that one episode where they were making pizzas and everyone's like, oh, pepperoni's my favorite. I love cheese. And then one kid is like, figs and balsamic. No,
that kid's still weird.
I love him, though. He's just living his best life. I do think it would be kind of fun. This is going in a very different direction now. But I think it would be kind of fun if there was, like, a serial killer junior. And so it's like...
What would that...
It's like 3 serial killers. And they have, like, weird children from broken homes.
What?
And they're like, all right, who's got what it takes to be the next generation?
Of serial killer?
Yeah.
That seems insane.
Like in horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if you had like Freddy and...
It's like a horror comedy movie.
Yeah, but they had all these kids who were like, troubled youths.
Yeah.
And they're like, I'm ready to stab. I'll get him right in the, Vena Cava. Or whatever.
Okay.
That's something in the heart, I think. These are the kind of big words they're going to use because they're articulate.
Because they're weird.
Yeah, because they're little fucking weirdos. Yeah.
I would watch that, I think. But I watch a lot. We watched one show that was like, it was 2 episodes, and I don't even think it needed to be 2 episodes.
The Killer Cakes one?
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about what a freaking letdown.
It was so weird.
As someone who loves cooking and baking competition shows and also loves horror, I was so excited when Killer Cakes came out on Amazon Prime, and it had Matthew Lillard as the host, and it was going to be so cool. And then it was like 2 or 3 episodes, and it was so underwhelming, like how short...
Yeah, it was like a super, like a micro competition.
Yeah.
And I guess they were just like, I don't know, we don't have enough people to like
I hope they bring it back. Maybe this was just like the trial run.
Like a pilot season.
Yeah, just a little thing to kind of get their feet wet.
Yeah.
But because it had so much potential, like they were doing like cool like horror special effects cakes.
There was one that was like an ice box that like when they opened it, they wanted there to be like somebody inside and like thrashing
moving around and stuff. Yeah.
And so it was stuff like that, which is like really cool.
So like they're making all the pieces out of cake, but then they have some like movie FX people helping bring their vision to life. And it was really fun.
And then it was like 3 episodes and we were like, oh, I guess that's it.
Yeah, so much for binging that in the month of October.
Yeah.
It's over already. Maybe people watched it. If you didn't, go and watch it so that I can get another season.
So that they'll make another one,
And leave it 2 thumbs up.
They also need to make another season of that show, Pressure Cooker.
Yes.
I think we've talked about it
before.
We've
definitely... I was going to say, who have you not talked to about Pressure Cooker?
Single-handedly the greatest mix of cooking and reality TV I've ever seen in my life. They had some real characters on that show.
Yep. Quality entertainment.
That was so good.
Yeah, we really need to get back to the early 2000s where any competition show also had the element of, oh, and you're all living together.
Yeah.
But they need to like actually show that part.
Yes.
Because it is so funny to me when we go back and watch like the first season of long running competition shows. And for some reason they are all like, and we're staying in this cool apartment together in New York City.
Yep.
But then we don't actually get anything. Like at most you get like a couple of shots of them like getting ready in the morning, but there's no other content. So we need more of that. I want the drama.
Yeah.
Give me the juice.
Yeah. I think Hell's Kitchen is like one of the only ones that like still kind of does that. I mean, there's probably other reality shows that do that, right? But I don't generally watch just reality shows. I need the cooking element to tell myself that I'm not just watching garbage television.
I don't just want to watch that. That's what I mean. I don't want to just watch a reality show. I want to watch a competition show. It's like America's Next Top Model. That's a competition show. They also all live together and we get all the behind the scenes drama. That's what I want.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah, imagine Cutthroat Kitchen, but like drawn out.
Long form season.
Like 16 people.
And it gets to a point where they're just like, you can start buying sabotages for the apartment of just like, oops, this person's toilet isn't going to work anymore.
Oops, the fire alarm's going off all night. And you slept all day the day before to prepare because you knew it was coming.
All the fire alarms going off, but we are going to give you and only you soundproof headphones.
This is starting to turn into like very low level versions.
Stanford Prison Experiment.
Well, no, like just very yes, but also like very low level versions of like traps.
Yeah.
From Saw.
Yep.
Which is what we're talking about today.
That's true. Good transition.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
I was there. Yeah, no. We watched Saw 2, the second one.
Saw 2. Saw again.
Yeah. Scene.
That would have been really funny if it was Saw and then Scene.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't remember what the tagline for this one was. Oh, yes, there will be blood.
Love it. Not really relevant to anything, but that's fine.
He says that in the movie.
Oh yeah, he does say that, doesn't he?
Because I made a really stupid joke right after he said it.
Is that why you brought it up so that you could tell your joke again to the audience? No, go ahead.
No, it's because you said if it would be funny if it was Saw Scene.
Oh, yeah.
Like a tagline kind of a thing.
Yeah.
The actual tagline was, oh yes, there will be blood.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I made a dumb joke when we were watching it when John Kramer says, oh yes, there will be blood at one point, and I said me when
get it out.
Me when I'm talking about my favorite Daniel Day-Lewis movie.
Really funny.
It's really good.
Really good joke.
It's really funny.
I think my favorite part about it was how you couldn't get it out.
No.
For
it's really funny.
25 to 30 seconds.
Because it's funny. Everyone at home's laughing. They're laughing really hard.
They are.
Said, holy shit.
The episode is actually paused right now because they're laughing so hard. They're like, I don't want to miss this. What if he has a follow-up joke?
Man, I don't. Spend it all on that.
Well, that's all you need. Sometimes it's a one and it's a done.
No, yeah, we watched Saw 2, and I think this is the first sequel that we're doing on the show. I don't think we've done a sequel.
Ooh.
Yeah, we've done the first of any series.
Mm-hmm. We've achieved that milestone.
Yep. What's Saw 2 about?
Saw 2, I will tell you. Saw 2, it is, in case you weren't aware, the follow-up to Saw. And the plot hook for this is that a group of ex-convicts are trapped by the Jigsaw Killer inside a house and must pass a series of deadly tests to retrieve the antidote for a nerve agent that will kill them in 2 hours. All the while, a detective and his team are playing a game of their own. Banana,
da-na-na, da-na-na-na. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. So with this one, this came out the year after Saw, so 2005 film, and it was co-written by Leigh Whannell. You know, the first one was James Wan and Leigh Whannell together. This one, it was Leigh Whannell and a guy named Darren Lynn Bousman. And apparently the situation with that is that Bousman had actually written and pitched this movie concept as a completely separate title. And then the person who produced the first Saw got his little hands on this and was like, I like this movie. With some rewrites, this could be Saw 2. And he was like, cool. So then it became Saw 2. But yeah, with this one, of course, like all the Saw movies, we have the main game, but then we have like games within games within games. So
yeah,
this kind of, the first Saw is relatively mild compared to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
When you go back and watch it, seeing after having seen the later ones, you're kind of taken aback by how relatively simple and straightforward it all is.
Yeah, like I think we talked about it when we did Saw.
Yeah.
But that the plot of Saw is really not like super complicated.
No.
There is like a twist to it, and it was a cool twist by the end of it. But like in comparison to literally every other Saw movie,
yes,
we from this one Saw 2 we start to like call back to that one, and then we're just like, oh, we're so deep in it, and I don't even know which way I need to go anymore.
Right. Yeah, Saw 2 really kind of set the tone for the rest of the franchise.
Yeah.
Because it could have gone probably in other directions, but this one really created the theme of like the 5D chess.
Yes.
And there's never just one game. Like there's a game within a game within a game within another game, and that game's tied to this game, which is a totally separate thing. And also, you know, as the franchise goes on, Jigsaw takes on more proteges, and this is kind of our first glimpse into that sort of mentorship element to Jigsaw's character. So I like this movie. It's interesting. I feel like when I was trying to do some of my research to like put together, you know, stuff about Saw 2, I was seeing a lot of people being like, Saw 2 is the worst Saw, and I'm like, objectively wrong.
No.
They get way worse.
This
movie rules hard.
Yeah. The Saw movies do the thing where like they like progressively get worse as they go on.
Yeah. And sometimes they kind of come back around.
Well, but I think that's the thing is like as a whole though, if you're watching the series, then they're all like kind of good.
Yeah.
Because they all are pretty consistent with like what they're setting out to do. And like, yeah, there's good parts and bad parts of any one of them, right? But they kind of like, if you look back on it as like a whole series, it kind of feels like it kind of wraps back around to being like so bad it's good almost. Like it's hard to get to the 7th, 8th, or 9th movie in any of these things and feel like we still got, you know, gas in the tank there. But like they somehow do manage to come up with stuff.
They're continuing to pump these bad boys out, and I'm continuing to be at attention.
We went and saw X and
in theaters,
and they're releasing another one this year.
One of my favorite movie-going experiences ever.
It was really good.
Loved it.
It was a fun one.
I do want to quickly shout out the main cast.
Yeah.
This movie has actually a pretty large cast, so I'm just going to kind of stick to the main characters. Yeah. But we do have Tobin Bell as John Kramer / Jigsaw, Shawnee Smith as Amanda Young, Donnie Wahlberg, New Kids on the Block, anybody, as Eric Matthews, Eric Knudsen as Daniel Matthews, and then we kind of get into all of the people in the house. We have Frankie G, Glenn Plummer, Emmanuel Vogier, Beverly Mitchell, Dina Meyer, Lyric Bent, Noam Jenkins, and Tony Napo as the other people in the house that are a part of that game. Do you love Halloween? Have you ever wished there was another time to celebrate that fun and spooky time of year?
Well, now you can. Hauntfest is a Halloween horror festival business that celebrates Halloween off-season.
Their next ghoulish affairs will be at Nightmare Dungeon in Greenville, South Carolina on December 13th through 15th, and at Terrapin Beer Company in Athens, Georgia on April 4th through 6th.
Hauntfest events include all sorts of themed activities, such as hay rides, freak shows, fire breathing, live music, trivia, pumpkin painting, animal encounters, a haunted trail, and much more.
The festival also hosts an array of horror and Halloween-themed vendors, offering anything from tarot readings and antiques to original horror literature, macabre artwork, and jewelry.
Don't miss out on this opportunity. Get your pre-sale tickets today for only $20.
For ticket purchases, inquiries, and more info, please visit www.hauntfest.net and follow Hauntfest on social media. So, of course, there's some familiar characters. We have Jigsaw back, and we have Amanda back. Amanda was a victim in Saw 1.
Yeah, she was notably from the first Saw movie, the person that had was interviewed as having gone through one survivor of the games and was a survivor. Specifically, the thing that she went through, she had to get the key out of like her... I don't know, drug dealer, some guy that she knew or whatever. It's not important who he is, really.
Yeah,
it was like in his intestines, so she had to like cut him open and like get the key out.
And she was wearing the iconic bear trap.
The reverse bear trap thing. But she survives that. But she's back again.
Yes.
In another game.
So in this new game, there's a group of people in a house that all just kind of wake up there and don't know where they are or how they got there. And Amanda is also back, and she kind of in some ways acts a little bit as a shepherd because she recognizes immediately, hey, this is Jigsaw shit. Yeah. And she's kind of trying to tell them like everything means something and there's gonna be clues and all this stuff, but they're all like in every Saw movie, they're just being shitheads to each other.
And also, like, if you want to survive, you have to play by the rules.
Yeah, you have to actually play the game. Like, you can't just muscle your way through it.
Yeah.
But of course, so that's the main game of the film is this group of people. They've all been told that they were administered a nerve agent that will kill them within a certain time frame, but there are antidotes throughout the house. And the B plot of this is that a police team, a SWAT team really, has found by using some clues at an earlier Jigsaw scene where Jigsaw is, like his workshop is.
Yeah.
And he has some computers set up that appear to be monitoring that game in the house. Mm-hmm. And he's not like resisting, he's not fleeing. He is like, hey, I want to play a game with Detective Matthews. Mm-hmm. And so Detective Matthews is also in his own game, and it becomes pretty high stakes for him because he realizes quickly that his son is one of the people in the house.
Yeah.
So Jigsaw is kind of doing this thing of like, oh, you just have to talk to me. We're just having a conversation. But he's like a hothead cop that's like, tell me where my son is, So those are the two main things we have going on. We have the house, and then we have the police watching the house, and Detective Matthews in his own game with Jigsaw trying to fight for his son.
Yeah. And again, I think they do a really good job in most of the Saw movies.
Yeah.
And I'll try to avoid referencing ones that we have not watched yet because
we'll get there.
Every single time, this is another common thing that they do, where they introduce new information that expands upon something you watched in one of the older ones.
They recontextualize stuff, so they'll revisit moments from the first movie
to explain
but then they'll
things.
Put a new spin on it with like, oh, actually this character was there.
And so they do that in pretty much every single one of them. It's basically a trope of the movies that the last like little chunk of the film is actually going to be a recap that recontextualizes both the movie you just watched and also all of the previous ones movies, that you've seen.
And the whole time, the biggest banger in the world. Just
it's so good. They do a different theme every single time. Like it's the same theme, but it's like rewritten slightly, and it's good every single time.
Every time.
But anyway, one thing I do want to give them props for is that, like, besides that, the kind of storyline of, and I'm just going to talk about Saw 2 specifically, makes sense going all the way through it. Like, the puzzle pieces are all there. And this is... in the first one, we kind of learned things about John that, like, still hold true about both Jigsaw and then him as... a cancer patient, right? Like, we see him, the reason that he's not fleeing is because he's, like, bound to a wheelchair and he's got, like, an IV drip. And so, like, he really can't run away. Not saying that, like, he couldn't have, like, foreseen them coming and then just not have been there. Clearly he wanted to be there because this is his game that he has set up for Donnie Wahlberg, Detective Eric Matthews. But also, we learn in the first one, and this holds true in the second one, that, like, the things he says are... He's never really lying about stuff. He uses a lot of, like, double speak or, like, dual meanings to stuff, or he'll speak very cryptically, and you can kind of hear the smile when he says it.
You know, it's all code.
Yeah, like, meaning that, like, you know, he's told you exactly the answer, but you're just not, you know, you're not hearing him.
Right.
You're not listening.
Well, and I think part of an ongoing theme with Jigsaw, and it's why we joke about the 5D chess and everything, is that part of why Jigsaw knows this works is that he's supposed to be kind of this genius at, like, reading people and knowing how they will behave based on their past behavior. So he explicitly sets up tests and he provides these clues that in hindsight are so obvious because he knows they're always going to fall back into the worst version of themselves and they won't be able to solve this, when really all they would need to do is have an open mind or do something a slightly different way or whatever, but they're never going to do it. That's why he's testing them. Yeah. You know, which is also why I think it's how he kind of justifies it to himself, that, like, he's doing them a service by giving them an opportunity for growth. Sure. You know?
Doesn't it also kind of, like, prove his kind of theory wrong about, like, people deserving of life if, like, 90% plus of the people he subjects to these games just die?
I guess he just thinks 90+% of people don't deserve to be alive.
I guess not.
Maybe those are the right numbers for him.
He's all like, I went to a car crash. I tried to kill myself in a car crash, and I deserve cancer
to live. Yeah.
Yeah.
The great fucking Jigsaw. Oh, I got cancer.
Hey, I got cancer. Hey.
Yeah, and the whole thing is kind of crazy because he tells this tale that, like, he wants people to be grateful for life and to fight to survive and to prove how much they want to live by going through the games. But then it's also, like, we've talked about this before, but there are times where people, like, almost finish it. It's just, like, not within the right time frame. And I'm like,
because he gives them 3 minutes to do brain surgery on themselves.
That person who just cut open their freaking cerebellum, you're telling me that person doesn't want to live, but, like... Oh, so it's their fault?
He's saying they don't want to live because, I'm sorry, they took a little too long in the wind-up to, like, actually commit to doing this.
They didn't chop off their leg in one swipe. It took them 2. So they clearly don't want to live.
They clearly didn't have the will to survive.
Like, literally, fuck off. I so badly wish that I could just, like, bully Jigsaw as a character.
No, he sucks. This is also one of the movies... I think maybe the movie of the Saw franchise that, like, I think really kicked off the idea that I had heard from a lot of people, especially when these movies, like, were kind of peak.
Yeah.
Of that he's not actually...
Oh, he doesn't murder anybody.
Yeah, because when they all wake up in the house, they're all like, he's some psychopath murderer.
Yeah.
And then Amanda has just woken up and she's immediately like, no, he's not.
He doesn't murder anybody. He
wants us to survive. And I'm like, Amanda,
we just have to play his game.
Amanda, shut up.
Yeah. Bitch, you have survivor bias. Okay?
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah. Disrespectfully, be quiet now. But it's funny too, because I think Saw, and this isn't unique to this franchise, we've talked about it before with slashers and stuff, where it seems like they really create just the most unlikable characters so that you don't care when they inevitably die a horrible, painful death.
Yeah.
But these movies are often like that, where it's like, from the get-go, as soon as they're awake, one guy's just fucking beefing with everybody and being like, oh, shut up, what do you know? Like, aggro everywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, let's just, like, be normal for a second. Just for a second.
Yeah. To kind of get into some of the whole thing with Detective Matthew. So, like, we learn, like, right at the beginning of the movie, like, he's picking up his son who's, like, gotten in trouble.
Yeah.
I guess he's like in jail, but he's like in a holding cell or whatever.
He went to jail, but he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't like processed or anything.
Yeah.
They literally just held him because they knew he was the son of Detective Matthews. And so he comes and picks him up. He gets into a fight with him. Weirdly, like on a dock or something.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I don't know why the police station's on a dock or whatever. But and he's like, I want to go. I think I'll go stay with mom. And he's like, well, then just go.
And we're learning that like he's clearly going through a divorce or is recently divorced.
Yeah, and then we get
so lots of turmoil.
We get a little bit of like insight into that way later in the movie, where we realize kind of the his partner. I guess they had a little romantic fling.
Yeah.
And it got like found out about, but he's also being investigated by internal affairs.
Yes.
And so he's kind of, his
life is crumbling.
they talk about it. They make reference to it. We don't see a lot of him like doing police work other than interacting directly with Jigsaw.
Right.
But like the scene that we do get of him at the police station, he's like at a desk and he's like basically been reduced to doing desk work. He doesn't actually do like anything else now. And
we hear some things that, you know, he's like using excessive force and he's like basically a dirty cop. And so his life is crumbling in every direction. He had an affair with his partner.
Yeah.
His wife left him. His son hates him.
Yeah.
You know, he got demoted. He's not having a straight up good time.
Yeah, but then he kind of like has the big break because the opening kill in this is it's kind of a reverse. That's actually not a reverse break trap. It's more like a Venus flytrap.
It's like an Iron Maiden or whatever. No, an Iron Maiden's different.
Yeah, it's think of an Iron Maiden, but just for your head.
Just for your head only.
Yeah, I don't know if that has a specific
an Iron
name.
Head Maiden.
Yeah. But it's got a bunch of, you know, spikes on the inside of it, and the guy has to get like a key that has been surgically implanted behind his eye. And I guess he's been put into this game because he's an informant. He's a snitch.
Yeah.
So even Jigsaw is like, snitches get stitches.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious to me because I don't think this guy did anything specifically to Jigsaw.
Right.
Which I know I said I wasn't going to get into other ones, but like this is a thing that comes up later in the Saw movies where it seems like the whole idea of like helping people kind of goes out the window, and it's more about that somebody slighted him.
Yes,
and he's like, well, you go to a game now.
Yeah. Oh, you fucking cut me in line?
And so like,
I'm gonna cut your Achilles tendon.
So like this guy, I think kind of fits the idea that like he didn't necessarily do anything to Jigsaw. He's just not necessarily a great guy.
Yeah.
But also he serves the purpose of roping in Detective Matthews because this guy is an informant for Detective Matthews. And so when this all gets discovered, the scene gets discovered, they call Detective Matthews down, and there has been like painted on the wall, look closer, Detective Matthews.
Right.
Kind of like taunting him to get involved in this whole thing. Yes. And this is where he gets the clue from. There's like a tag on it, which is another hilarious little detail. They make a big deal about Donnie Wahlberg's character. Like, in a dream having this like fit of like, look closer, Detective Matthews.
Yes.
And he remembers seeing the label for like the steel warehouse or whatever on the mask. And I'm like, any cop there would have seen that. They didn't
fucking look for that. Like, that's step one.
Nobody thought to look into the tag that was on there.
Nobody processed this scene.
It's crazy.
I mean, I swear, if you watched one episode of Forensic Files, they will find the tiniest fleck of teal spray paint, and they will hunt down every spray paint manufacturer and seller in the tri-state area to do a match. Yeah.
So I think these are just bad cops is kind of what this comes down to.
Which maybe explains why he has to plant evidence on his He's like, I know
Jigsaw's
this guy.
Like, they're never going to find me if I don't.
I've got to give him a fucking head start.
Basically got to give him a map that has the address on it. Right but anyway, so he finds this thing, he alerts everyone, and then they go bust in to the place, and Jigsaw's rigged it with booby traps, kills 2 guys with electricity, breaks another guy's ankles with one trap.
Really no fucking reason.
No, it's just those guys didn't do anything.
Yeah, he just wants to do a kill.
But then they encounter him, and then we get all of this stuff where, Detective Matthews figures out his son is in there. And then the story kind of switches between them in the house, trying to get out, and seeing scenes between Jigsaw and all of this stuff. And we get to hear Jigsaw, I think, really importantly, because in the first movie he's in it, right? But he's also like really the only time we hear from him is over the recorders, and at the very end when he gets up and he says something. But we don't really get to like hear a lot of like from him about his ideology or anything. Yeah. But in this one, because he's directly talking with somebody, this detective, he's also kind of talking to the audience, where we get to hear a lot more about like the why he's doing this and like his reasoning on it.
And this is when we learn, he's a cancer patient.
Yeah, and he, blah, blah, blah. he decided he was going to try to kill himself by crashing his car, but that didn't work. And so that gave him the spark to be like, no, I want to live. And so and then that also set him off on this path of being like, if I can do it, then I want to make sure everyone else is worthy of life.
If there are people who like aren't grateful for life, I have to show them and make them grateful, basically.
And so we get all of that, and like that's all well and good. And he says some lines in there. He has the "oh yes, there will be blood" thing, because it's his favorite movie, and
let it go.
No. Importantly, during these conversations, because Eric Matthews is like, "Where's my son? You gotta tell me where my son is," and he's like getting more and more pissed off about it. And his rule for Detective Matthews' game is, you just have to sit here and talk with me.
Yeah, for 2 hours.
For 2 hours, and then I'll show you where your son is. You'll find that he is in a safe and secure place. Yep. But anyway, so if we go back into the house, we can like they're all starting in one room. Amanda wakes up, has her big freak out, and then she finds a section of the wall with like a loose brick, and then inside there's a recorder, and she does the we gotta play this. Like shaking and everything. They listen to it. Jigsaw explains like there's antidotes around the house, but you'll have to go through these trials basically to get them. Right. And then once you take an antidote, if you don't take one first, you're going to die. So you can't just sit here and not do anything. You do have to go.
Because it's going to set in over the next few hours.
The next part of it that he explains is that like you're all connected, basically. Right. You just don't really know how. And then the last thing he says, and this message was like far less creative than the first movie's recorders when he gets it, because like at the very end of this message on the recorder, he is basically just back to back to back saying like very obvious clues about stuff.
It's the escape room thing of like, and also make sure you wash behind your ears. Wink, wink.
So he tells them that there's, I think, an antidote or two inside the safe. Yeah. And you already know the code.
It's in the back of your mind.
You think hard about it, it's in the back of your mind.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And so they're all like, what the fuck does that mean? And then importantly, they get a little key. And this is the first like real trap other than they're stuck in this house together. There's a note with the key that says, do not use the key to try to open this door.
Yeah. There's one door out of the room.
And so one of them is like, no, I'm going to do it. What else would we use it for? Kind of a thing. And they go to do it. And there's like I'm going to call him a finance guy. I don't know what else. He's like a
so
businessy
irrelevant.
dude. He's the first guy to get killed.
Yeah.
So there's this big drug dealer dude, and he's the aggro dude, and he's like, he's like going to unlock it, and the other guy is like looking through
there's a peephole in the
little
door.
peephole, and he looks, as he's looking through it, he turns the key, and a revolver goes off through the peephole and kills him.
Yeah, so that guy dies instantly.
Just instantly. And we don't even really get to know anything about that guy. So he's really just not that important.
And everybody, of course, is freaking out. And they're like, and Amanda's trying to say, like, this is what I mean. Like, the clues are there for us to solve it. We just have to play the game.
Yeah. But eventually the door just unlocks by itself, and then they're able to kind of roam around the house. And as they go through, like, virtually every door is locked in this house, but there are certain ones that aren't. And so, like, we get into, like, different trials.
Yeah, there's
for different
trials.
Different people.
They can find more clues. And
we don't actually end up seeing all of the trials for every one of the people in the house. And there's a couple of characters who, like, they have, I guess, rooms set up, but we just never see it. The one we get to see is one of the guys that's in this in the game is Abby.
Yep.
We get to see his. We get to see, I can't remember her name, but the one where she sticks her hands up in the thing. We get to see it. We don't really get to.
I think it's implied she's like a sex worker or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amanda has a trial, right?
No, so Amanda, it is the drug dealer's trial. He just throws her into it because he's not going to do it.
Right.
And also, I'm kind of thinking about it now, that one trial that we see the sex worker girl do, that might have actually been Amanda's trial. That might not have actually been for her because of the information that we get about Amanda. Right.
Yeah, but anyway, we don't get to see everybody's. I would assume Jigsaw probably had them set up, but, doesn't happen. And of course, like, as it goes along, not only are the trials set up for a specific person, but also we're getting, like, more recordings where Jigsaw is leaving, like, more breadcrumbs about their connection to one another and all this stuff. Yeah. And this whole group, like, just refuses to work together in any meaningful way for even half a second. It takes forever just to get to the point where they're all like, oh, we've all been in jail before.
Yeah.
It takes forever
because they just like don't want to talk to each other about it. It's crazy.
They're hostile immediately.
Yeah. And importantly, so like I think we can kind of like spoil the thing to make it a little easier to talk about. So like the connection for all of them is that they have all been in jail before.
Yeah.
I believe specifically it's that the arresting officer is Detective Eric Matthews.
Right.
And he's a dirty cop, and so a lot of them went to jail for he like planted evidence or like got false confessions or whatever. So he did things illegally to get them in jail.
Right. So they are like anti this guy.
Yeah. And so but none of them know that this kid is his son. They all kind of just assume once they kind of figure this out that like they've all been in jail, that he's kind of just been in and out of juvie.
Well, and he says like I've been in trouble before.
Yeah. And so like they kind of just take that like okay, so our common thread is that we've all been in trouble or whatever, and they don't really think anything else about it. And that is until later when one of the characters that we never get to see their room for, she's like, just before she dies.
I know. She's like I am losing consciousness real quick before I go. X marks the spot.
Yeah, like a fucking cryptic clue that he said, which, like, good for her that she spotted it. Everything in this house is so run down that honestly, I don't know how she managed to point that out. Also, even if I
had spotted it after the way everybody behaved, I'm taking that to my grave, baby.
Yeah, no.
X marks the spot.
I'm dying right now. You don't get to know this information.
It's dying with me.
Yeah, but anyway, so it's a picture frame and it's got a crack in it.
That's
X-shaped, and so they pick it up off the wall, they flip it over, and there's a picture of Detective Matthews and his son.
Yeah. And in case that wasn't already clear enough, on the back of the photo in black Sharpie, it says father and son. Yeah.
I really wish like he was holding it, because like he holds it up like, what is this, with the text facing the person. They've been like, what does that say? Like I really wish like the implication was like they can't read.
Or they managed to do some kind of like, do you ever see Dude, Where's My Car?
Yes.
Where it's like, what does my tattoo say? Sweet. No, what does mine say? Sweet.
Dude, sweet. Yeah. But they figure this out, and in the meantime, big drug dealer guy. So let's jump back. Abby gets killed in his trap. He gets into a big furnace thing.
Stupid.
He doesn't manage to get either of the antidotes that are in there out. I will say, a lot of these traps in this one, my big complaint with Saw 2 is that a lot of the traps are extremely easy to bypass.
And yet.
And none of them do it.
They all fucking die for the most part.
Abby gets into this thing, and when he goes to pull one of the things down, it's connected via a chain all the way to the door that he climbed in through. He can
clearly see the chain.
Which he yanks, and then it closes the door and starts the thing. And his clue to getting out of the fiery thing was, once you're in hell, the only one who's your friend or can get you out is the devil, or something like that. And there's a little drawing of a devil pointing to this little, like...
Yeah, he can turn off the fire.
Spigot thing or whatever to turn the fire off. But he's, I guess, afraid of fire, which, I mean, like, he's burning.
I don't know. We don't really know.
Anyway, they try to break him out by breaking some glass. He, like, pokes his head out, but he burns alive in there. He doesn't get any of the antidotes out, and everyone's like, rah!
Yeah.
And then we get to do the big drug lord guys, and when we go in the room, it's not locked, but it's rigged so that when they open the door, it sets off a timer.
Right.
Which is another annoying jigsaw thing that he does, where
it's like, how are you going to set off the timer before you even know what to do?
They don't even know the trap is covered up.
They don't even know what to do, and you're setting off the timer.
Yeah, and he gives him like 3 minutes or 4 minutes. It doesn't matter. Most of the time is taken up by listening to the recording of being like, here's the game we're gonna play, which the game is a pit of needles.
Yeah, and this scene is actually really cool in terms of the special effects. They did a great job with this needle pit.
Yeah, it's a pit that is filled with... It was actually supposed to be filled with way more needles than was actually in it.
But then it was a pain in the ass to get the ones they did have.
Yeah, because they really underestimated how many needles they would
fill
need to fill that up.
Yeah. Well, and they had to, like, painstakingly go through this process of, like, taking the real... Like, they bought syringes, but then they had to take the actual needles out and replace them with,
like fiber optic
or whatever,
like tips on there.
Yeah,
and they didn't even get all
had
of
to
those.
do that just like for thousands,
hundreds of thousands of them to get them in. There's like 120,000 needles.
But it is really cringeworthy. Yeah. Like, I don't even necessarily have like a needle thing.
Yeah.
But when he picks up Amanda and just yeets her
in
into the
it, and she
pit,
lands on it,
and immediately she's pricked all over, and you can see some of them hanging off of her skin. It's horrible.
Yeah. And then they're all just standing around watching her do this, like, in the pit, just, like, throwing shit around to find the key. And, of course, she finds it. She puts it up on the thing. He grabs it, but the time ticks down.
It's already too low. He's fumbling with the key. Yeah. There's no way it's getting in.
And so the door with the antidote inside of it locks forever, as it says. So now they're out, like, 3 antidotes.
Mm-hmm. So somebody's going to die regardless, basically.
But then I think he figures it out they like end up going back to like the safe or whatever, like he goes back there, and then he figures out that like the think closely, it's in the back of your mind thing. So he figures out the guy that got killed at the beginning, kind of looking at it, and he realizes that on the back of the dude's neck is tattooed 2 numbers.
Yeah.
And so then he realizes that they all will have numbers tattooed on the back of their necks. And so he's like, I just want to see the back of everyone's head.
He's kind of goes rogue at this point and isn't working with anybody anymore. Yeah. And also everybody like hates him / is afraid of him.
Yes.
So you have like Amanda, the kid, the 2 other women, one of whom is, you have like the sex worker girl, and then the other one who looks like, you know, a soccer mom or something. Like she could be in like an Aeropostale, you know, catalog. And they're all kind of working together. But also as this goes on, because they've been administered that nerve agent, they are acting... They're more and more fatigued. Yeah. They're weak. They are not like thinking straight. You know, they're clearly under the effects of this thing, which is making it even harder. But yeah, he's going around on a rampage, going through all the dead people to find their numbers.
And then Amanda and the kid have like kind of run. The one sex worker woman has been like, fuck this, because she doesn't trust anybody.
After they find the father and son thing. But she also went into what we were saying earlier was probably Amanda's trial, which was basically one of those things where like, I think we've all like encountered versions of this where it's like a passage that only goes one way. So you can like easily punch through, but then when you try to pull back out, it closes around.
Like the finger trap.
Chinese finger trap.
Yes.
Yeah. It's basically that. And she just so stupidly just throws both of her arms into this thing.
She puts one up through one side. There's two separate holes. It's like a floating glass box. And she puts one arm up. She tries to grab the thing.
Yeah.
It immediately spills the antidote all inside the box. So it's already shot. You can't use it.
And then in desperation, she
sticks her other hand.
And now she's just stuck there.
But it's one of those things where if she had just done it through the same one, she could have just pushed the blades off of her wrist and would have been able to pull her hand back out. Would she have died from the nerve agent anyway? Yes.
Probably.
That's not the point.
Yeah. But, you know, they really want to lean into how sinister this drug dealer guy is. So he comes in and she's crying for help.
She's like,
and he's like, oh yeah, it's okay, baby. And he like pulls her hair to the side to see what her number is and then quietly backs out and leaves her there to die. But all of this kind of culminates in a big chase between him and Amanda and the son.
Yeah. And,
you know, he also is aware because when he found the blonde girl, he found the father and son picture. Yes. So he's like, I'm going to kill all these guys.
Yeah. For some reason, the kid didn't bring the photo with him. He just dropped it. He thought, whatever. I already got a negative reaction. There's no way anything else bad could happen.
It's fine. It's fine. But it's a big chase scene throughout the house. And this is where the other game is going on. This is when Detective Matthews really kind of starts to lose his patience with Jigsaw.
Yeah.
Because he is watching all of this happen on the, you know, monitors.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, my son is in actual danger now. Like, you need to tell me where he is.
We're not playing anymore. You're telling me where he is. So he goes old school on him and starts beating the shit out of him.
Really bad. And, you know, we get more confrontation as Jigsaw is like, well, you know, what you gonna do? Plant drugs on me or whatever? He's kind of goading him. But then Jigsaw finally is just like, okay, I'll work with you. I'll take you where you want to go.
He tells him game over. So Detective Matthews has lost his game.
Yeah, but I don't think Detective Matthews knows that. I think that's supposed to be a cutesy double meaning thing where he says game over. To us, it's supposed to be.
We know Detective Matthews just lost
failed.
the game, but to Detective Matthews, what that reads as is, I'm not playing anymore. I'll tell you what you want to know.
So he ends up, you know, fucking fleeing the scene with Jigsaw without the other police officers.
Through a secret elevator nobody knew about?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jigsaw. What do you want? So they go off and he's getting him to the house, and we have this intense, you know, we're cutting back and forth between the chase scene with the son, you know, going through all these winding hallways, and then also the not really a chase scene, but Detective Matthews going through the house trying to find his kid and be like, where the hell is this? And also at the same time, you have the SWAT team who, once Jigsaw and everything happened, has been told, okay, just fucking go to the address that we connected these monitors to.
Well, yeah, because importantly, they were trying to get a tech team the whole time.
Yeah, so the SWAT team is going to the location, Detective Matthews is ahead of them, and then the kid and Amanda are being chased by the drug dealer. So everything's all converging at once. It's the 11th hour. It's the final countdown, as it were. We get a kind of resolution of the son where he and Amanda go down some stairs and wind around some hallways, and they end up in the original room that was featured in the first Saw movie. They're actually seeing the remnants of that room.
Yeah, they're in the bathroom.
You know, the corpses of Adam and
the sawn off foot.
Yeah, they see all that stuff.
They're all like decayed and stuff. Like they've been there a while.
Yeah. And they get chased in, and they're kind of they're both like super weak and probably gonna die at any second. But you know, Amanda, as a last ditch effort, is like, don't kill us, like we'll be able to tell you the number on the back of your head. And because he's a badass, he just cuts the skin off, which like how would you even know where
I think that every time I see this movie that like he would have to guess so right.
Yeah.
Otherwise he's like butchering the number and he has no idea.
Yeah. But we kind of leave off with it finally turns because he goes to kill Amanda, and Danny, the son, who's been kind of feigning like he's passed out, like pops up and you know, stabs him with something. And so
he cuts his throat with one of the saws.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. So okay, they're fine for the moment being, basically, but they still don't have antidotes.
Yeah.
So what are they gonna do?
Yeah, ends up cutting from that to then I think we get.
This is when we get the SWAT team.
Yeah, then we have the SWAT team going through the house, and they're like, where the fuck is
all of this?
Anyone?
Yeah. And also Carrie, who is the partner that Detective Matthews had an affair with, is still at the location watching the screens, and she's like, I don't see you. And they're like, we entered the building. And she's like, you're not, where are you? Like, I don't see you on the monitors.
Yep.
And this is when they realize that the whole thing has been a ruse.
Yep. And
the monitors that were set up in his workshop were playing pre-recorded material, and this game already ended.
Yep.
And so the son wasn't, you know,
he's not there.
He's not there. It's over now, basically. And this is when also, of course, we realize Detective Matthews is now in deep shit because he let Jigsaw bring him to this location and then walked into a building alone. No one knows where he is, and it's not the same building that the SWAT team is at. And so he's basically walking himself into a trap.
Yep. Eventually he finds the bathroom.
Yep.
And is like, he goes through the whole house, finds the bathroom and everything, and then he gets injected, knocked out, and when he comes to, we're getting the big reveal of Amanda was actually in on this the whole time. Yes. She is now saying that she's going to continue on John's legacy once he dies, and she's standing in the doorway. And she
gets the cool line of, Game
over, and slams the door. Yeah. And he's like, I'll fucking kill you.
I'll kill you. Dude, you are shackled in
shackled in a bathroom.
With other corpses. I don't think you're getting out from me.
Danny was the big reveal is why I said remember that line about safe and secure location. So when she realizes, when Carrie realizes that they're not in the same place, that they've been had kind of a thing. A safe in the room that nobody fucking looked at. Again, terrible cops.
The worst.
Just opens. Danny's inside of it, like on oxygen. Yep. He's crying because he's been stuffed into the safe and doesn't know where he is and scared or whatever. But he's fine.
He's alive.
Yeah.
You know.
He was in the room with them the whole time. They just didn't know that he was right there.
Yep. So Danny's fine, and Detective Matthews, his own, you know, anger issues and impatience caused him to lose the game, and his son and everything. And that's really kind of where it, you know, wraps up. We have all of that fun, you know, recontextualizing where all the pieces get put back together and all the hints that you missed are, you know, are highlighted again as as that banger plays.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's Saw 2.
Yeah, it's fun. It really does kind of set apart from Saw in that, like, obviously they're both about like these games and this kind of sadistic killer and putting them in these traps and all of that stuff. Like, all of that's the same, but it's almost kind of like not necessarily like a tonal shift, but it does change
a little bit directionally like how the franchise might have gone otherwise, because like Saw to Saw 2 are kind of different movies.
They have very different vibes.
Yeah.
Saw 2 feels a lot more like the rest of the franchise in that it's a little bit more heightened. It's a little bit more over the top and ridiculous.
Yeah. Like almost every other one past this is like they lean more heavily into like a series of mazes that have trials in them, like several little games that you have to do, which usually incorporate other people within those games.
Yes. Versus, you know, that first one was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it really kind of set the tone for the rest of the franchise. I think it's a super fun movie. I really like this one.
Yeah.
Even though the characters all suck ass.
Yeah, but that's like a really common thread, like in every Saw movie. And I think you're right in that, like, it's by design, right? Because if they were all like good people, which I don't know, maybe they should do that in Saw 11. Is like have
oops,
like
all good guys.
Like have like they got it wrong. Like oops, good guys in this one.
Yeah.
Which would kind of fly in the face of whatever, but anyway, I get it. But like, have some like good people in there so that we're really like, oh no, I want him to make it out, because time and time again in these movies, you end up being like, it's fine if he doesn't get out, because like he does kind of suck.
The drug dealer that was killing everybody.
Yeah, like I don't want him to get out. Like I wanted the son to get out, Danny to get out, because he didn't really do anything.
Yeah. But just craziness, absolute insanity. We should definitely go over our scores for this. I do not recall what my score for the first Saw movie was, and I think that might have been before we even had the scale. But I ended up giving it a 6.9. And it looks like you, Curtis, gave it a 7, so our combined average is a 7.
7, yeah, it's somewhere
just
in
rounds
between,
up.
but yeah.
So yeah, I think that's fair. I think this is my highest score by a lot was entertainment, because to me it's just a really fun movie to watch.
Yeah, I put my highest score as visuals, because I do think they do usually in the Saw movies a pretty good job of like doing
pretty good effects, pretty good like set design. They're always visually interesting.
You know you're in a Saw movie because everything's dirty. It doesn't matter what location you are in, dirty.
Grimy.
Police station, dirty.
Yep.
This house, dirty. Jigsaw's workshop, dirty. You know, it's just all dirty. It's filthy disgusting. Yeah. And it's really funny. I do think overall the series of Saw is just entertaining.
I think so too.
Just because it from Saw 2 onward, they just really up the ridiculousness of it all. And so
this is why I was recently speaking with someone about the Saw franchise, because they had never seen any of them, and I was like, low key, knowing this person, you would like the first Saw movie, because it's basically a crime thriller.
Yes.
But and you wouldn't like the rest of them.
And I think that's like the really big difference between Saw and the rest of the Saw franchise.
Yeah.
Saw is a crime thriller that happens to have some kind of like brutal twists towards the end that are kind of, you know, a little bit like disgusting in terms like he has to cut his foot off.
There is violence, but a lot of it honestly happens off screen.
Yeah. And like, so it is brutal, but like if you compare it to, I mean, even Saw 2, but I'm thinking about like Saw 3 and Saw 4.
Oh yeah.
There's one, I don't remember
amp it up like crazy.
I don't remember if it's Saw 3 or 4, but one of them has the rack. I think it's 3.
I think that is 3.
Where the guy's in it
and it's twisting all of his body parts.
It's so disgusting.
It's horrible. Carrie, the detective in this one, the partner, she's also in either the third or the fourth one. Hers is fucking horrible. Yeah. Hers is the one where like her rib cage gets ripped open and it looks like wings. It's like some weird ass like Hannibal shit.
Yeah.
It's, I mean, they really go hard on the gore in the later ones.
In the later ones,
the first one doesn't.
It's not so much crime thrillers as it is just, you know, as people kind of referred to it from the outset of the franchise, but I don't think it was really true. Yeah. But as torture porn, it does start to get into that. Mm-hmm. I think they tread that line a little bit. I've seen other movies that I would describe to be more definitely, you know, in that vein. But
anyway, I do think it's a good one. I mean, if you like the Saw idea, if you like anything like that, the over-the-top gore, the mind games, the puzzles, like Saw's got it all. It's going to be the perfect franchise.
They are really good popcorn movies.
Oh, totally. They're so fun. You get hyped. Fun. They're just, it makes you feel like a genius when you can solve it in advance. I mean, it's delightful. I love a Saw movie. Yeah. But also, if that's not, like, I think our score is relatively high as far as our scale tends to go. Yeah. Mostly because I'm negative. But if you're thinking, a 7, I've got to check this out, your mileage may vary. If you're not a gore person, if you don't like, the over-the-top craziness, then this probably won't do anything for you.
Yeah. Do you have a scariest part of the movie?
Did you have one off the top of your head?
It's hard now because I've seen it so many times that, like, it's not really scary to me anymore. It is just entertaining. I'm trying to put it through the lens of...
The first time
that I saw it. Probably just, like, pure adrenaline, like, this would suck, is when Amanda gets thrown in the needle pit.
Awful.
The biggest, like, jump scary moment for me personally in the movie is the guy who gets killed first because of the revolver thing. Not because you don't really see it coming, you kind of do.
Yeah.
Because they show the revolver as it's getting ready to shoot. But in the first movie, we don't even, like, we see him, like, cut his foot off or whatever, but a lot of it is, they're cutting back and forth to really get the point across. And this one, he gets shot, and then he, like, turns around and is,
you
like,
see the
it's, like, jiggly brain matter and stuff, so it's really gross, but...
Yeah. I think it's also hard for me, scariest moment, I've seen this a lot, but I will say jump scares tend to work on me, and there is a part when one of the characters, the blonde girl, is remembering being kidnapped, and it's a quick like flashback, but with like the pig face like coming at her, and that, or actually it's not the pig face, it's Abby, but like I get jump scared by that because I never remember it. It's such a small moment, and so it gets me every single time.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
But yeah, I mean, I don't grossest would be a different conversation. The one that gets me, the needles get me too, but the one that gets me is the girl that puts her hands in the Chinese finger trap, because that it just, like, the idea of being in that situation, I wouldn't do it how she did it, of course.
She's objectively doing it in the stupidest way possible. But assuming I
found myself in such a situation, I would be horrified. Yeah. And it would be so awful. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the good news is you probably die from the gas or nerve agent before all of that, so,
Also, I mean, revolver, I'm ready to stand in front of the door. I ain't doing this. I ain't doing this. I ain't gonna scoop out my eye gun.
It is funny how many times, like, in the Saw movies where, like, a character is immediately confronted with, like, an option to just, like, kill themselves in it, that they don't take it, and instead decide to go through the whole thing to ultimately get killed anyway. And I'm just like, what if Jigsaw had all this whole plan, but just didn't possibly conceive of the idea that the guy immediately wakes up, says, I know what this is, and then just ends it right there. Exactly. And Jigsaw's like, well, I guess that's that game.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I would be the easiest one for him, because I'm like, do I want to just kill myself, or do I want to slowly drown being waterboarded in pig's blood?
Yeah.
I think I'll just
hey, I know how this is going to end, so I'll just skip to the good part. No. It's wild. Man. Anyway.
Just terrible.
I think that's all I have.
That's all I've got too. But we've got some fun stuff coming up. Continue to send us your suggestions. If you have any, you can send us an email. It's firstrightpod@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us, follow us on Instagram and X @firstrightpod. And we do have a Facebook page called Love at First Fright. Feel free to reach out, get in touch with us, send us your suggestions and your feedback. Other than that...
No, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, as always, scare well. We'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Game over. Na